All right, everybody, welcome back to the show. Today, I have the pleasure of welcoming Travis Misurell. Did I pronounce that correctly, sir?
Yeah.
Perfect. Of Future is Now Coalition. And I wanted to have him on today to talk about some of his revolutionary ideas about direct democracy and in this new tech world we live in. So, Travis, thanks for coming on. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me and glad to be here.
So yeah, give my audience a little bit of background on you. What's your story, and then what led you to getting this Future is Now coalition idea off the ground.
Sure. So it's Futures Now and also known as FiNC. And so my background is in psychology. I have my bachelor's in psych. Didn't necessarily do anything professional with that, but ultimately throughout my whole life, just always felt myself different, identify as neurodivergent, kind of autistic. And even that I just figured out in my later years. But all my life, I just felt like I see things a little bit differently, kind of patterns for human behaviors. And um, as I got older, got into more politics and really seeing that people have, everyone has their different narratives of how they see politics, what they see as truth, all those things, and, drives a lot of their decisions in life. And pretty much realized that there's a unique way to navigate those narratives, and instead of trying to change people's narratives, kind of find a solution that even if they have a different narrative that maybe I don't even fundamentally agree with, that I could propose a solution that pretty much works with most narratives in this country of whether whatever you believe. For the most part, most Americans would want what we're trying to offer, basically.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like a getting around the rhetoric and the left versus right bullshit arguments and commentary, and it's like, no, let's get down to the you can vote line item through this new tech world, basically, where we don't actually need physical ballots, kind of thing. Is the idea to get everyone voting line item on issues online, kind of thing? Can you talk about how that plan works out? And I'm going to bring in the website here so people can see. Here you go. Here's your website. Think different, vote different, right here. And people can visit futureis.org and take a look at this little platform that you have here. So yeah, can you go ahead and talk about what right here, the political game is rigged. Anyone that listens to my show agrees with that. So expose it. Here it is. Digital politics exposes the patterns of manipulation, arms you to break free and reclaim your voice. So yeah, go ahead and you have the floor. Let's hear about this.
Yeah, so there's a lot to unpack. I'm still trying to make it as concise as possible, but
Hmm.
so the first part of it is what we're calling digital politics, which is it's the overall vision of what we see the future of politics, as well as it's kind of like it's not its own ideology. It actually allows people to have their own ideologies, but it still fits this overall picture that we're painting for people.
Okay.
And the big push is that the real battle, I think you agree with this, is it's bigger. It's not just left versus right. It's really people versus power. And a
Oh
lot of the
yeah.
other, and a lot of the other stuff is really just a distraction. And so we want people to understand, like, when they're voting, they're so fixated on left versus right, and they fight specific policies. And it's really like, either candidate, you're voting, you're voting for the lesser of two evils. And both, no matter who you're voting for the most part, they don't have your interest in mind. So, and this is open, like, I know you get further into certain beliefs of how controlled it is on the back end, but either way, that we're calling it, there's up-serving candidates and down-serving candidates. Most in office are up-serving, and that's the idea, is that they serve their big donors, they serve power above them, they serve the party
Absolutely.
leaders.
Yeah.
And some people believe that it's the Illuminati or this or that. So we're even open-ended to, like, it doesn't matter what part, either whether you call it deep state, establishment, status quo. It just has different language for the kind of the same thing.
Yeah.
And that's actually kind of what this boils down to with the digital politics side, is really coming up with universal language that, like, we don't, it casts a wider net, that people can have their different beliefs, but, like, generally we're kind of on the same page to some extent of, like, the system doesn't represent me. I'm not I'm not represented in government.
Sure.
You might think you're voting for the lesser evils, and like the shit just gets worse and worse. Things are not getting any better regardless of who's in office.
Sure.
Biden on his way out, it's like, oh, by the way, we're in an oligarchy. See ya. And like, it's like, okay, where were you the last 4 years?
100%. Yeah, I say that about Obama all the time. I'm like,
Mm.
you had this unique position to bridge the racial gap I mean, you were the first non-white allegedly. I know a lot of people like to say there was African Americans that were actually the first president before George Washington. I don't know if there's any truth to those stories, but I always say that about Obama, and I mean, it doesn't really matter in my opinion, which of the two establishment parties are in office, because it's the same establishment. It's the same business class, new aristocracy, new bourgeoisie class of people, and you know, people like me are on our shows all the time, uh, bitching and complaining and trying to wake people up and let them know, like, hey, you can keep playing this game if you want to, but Einstein's definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over again and expecting a different result. And if you're one of these people that are still expecting a different result from this framework of this two-party system, my listeners know that this is one of the biggest problems I find in American politics, and it is a gatekeeper, in my humble opinion. Just one more system of control and set of thoughts and ideas that we have to sift through in order to get to the point, and to the root of the matter. So, do you plan on through this? This is just a question that popped into my head off the top of my head. Doing some research on these candidates and letting people know that this is what they say they're for, but this is what they've voted for. This is who their donors are. This is what their record is. And it doesn't matter what their rhetoric is. Here's the backstory of what the hell these people are really all about. Is that kind of what your ultimate goal is here?
Yeah. So that kind of segues into the other part of it. So digital politics is more of the language, this broader mindset, this less divisive way of like, getting people on at least somewhat of a same page that are like it's getting people enough on the same page that we can move forward in at least somewhat of the same direction of building a better democracy. But to your question, so then the next part is about digital democracy, and that's the technology. It's really going to be an alternative ecosystem that bypasses the influence of the establishment. So with that, the idea is, we're trying to really emphasize like it's an actual ecosystem. It's still being in the process of being built, but ultimately, it's going to be built by the American people. It's not even us building it. We're basically giving the guidance, the infrastructure, and the tools that America is really going to build this. It's going to be citizen owned. We're not even going to own it. We're just going to kind of walk America through it, basically.
Nice.
But to your point and question, one of the key flagship features on this is going to be politician report cards.
Nice.
So it's going to showcase all politicians equally, including the third parties and independents. But then it's going to show them who's funding the campaign, what industry is that money coming from. It's going to show these are their promises, but do they fulfill their promises once in office?
Absolutely.
Really help build a tool that lets these citizens hold the politicians accountable to their promises and to their actions. And so ultimately, the goal is to prop up the grassroots candidates, those that are not funded by the corporations and the money, and those already in power and actually are funded by the people. And then America decides which pick they want. It could be any side of the aisle for as far as FiNC is concerned, different ideologies. We're kind of on the understanding it's never going to be like one party is the answer. It's going to run everything. The best is having different perspectives and different ideas in there. And if we had a true democracy, the best ideas would keep winning, and then the world, sure. As things get better, people would be like, oh, I like that guy. He made the world better. So it'll keep going.
I love this idea, man, because I mean, I personally feel like people, whether they know it or not, they need something like this. Even people that are aware of what's going on, this seems to be a great idea for a tool to help people sift, like you said, just sift through the bullshit and just like, let's get down to who you really are. What's your agenda? Why are you here? Who funded you and propped you up and pushed you into this system? And, you know, the, the, um, the latent question, I guess, the question that is kind of like not the direct upfront question that I'm thinking of right now is, um, that the commonality between people that see the same thing that we're seeing, it doesn't matter if you're on the right or you're on the left, if you see that both of them are compromised and both are a little too fascist or authoritarian in nature these days, um, at least the commonality with everyone that's going to be involved in this, and correct me if I'm wrong, is we see that there's inherent problems. This is the tool that you can use to make better decisions. And you almost don't even need to have a conversation with the politicians or promote whoever your favorite person is with a tool like this, and because you're going to have all the information you need regardless of watching the mainstream media or regardless of listening to Bernie Sanders or AOC or Trump or whoever talking on a podcast, and just, you know, you're sitting there as a viewer or a listener and you're saying to yourself, I know your voting record, that's complete bullshit, you're completely lying through your teeth right now, yada yada. So is that kind of where you're going?
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely. And yeah, and there'll be like just more and more layers. I mean, there's so much to unpack over it. Like the idea is really like building the digital embodiment of America's democracy, and then it's just going to forever evolve. The people keep adding different features, different ideas to it. Yeah, so there'll be like the politician report cards, but then also there'll be a home for independent media. So it'll also prop up like independent media journalists,
Sure.
and basically it's like it's going to be centralized infrastructure, privately owned, but privately owned by everyone. But then it's going to be centralized infrastructure, but all the content is decentralized. It's just building a level playing field, give different journalists a chance. You know, no one's going to thin them out. There has to be like some criteria of like journalist integrity, but then other than that, you know, they'll have different ideologies and whatnot. And
Sure.
you know, just let it be governed by the people, really. So they'll, you know, for even with the journalists, there'll be rating systems of like how accurate is their information, how partisan, how biased, stuff like that. And just really just allow America to shape this and decide what journalists rise to the top, what candidates rise to the top. And it's something I think you said earlier. Another part that this could really evolve to is where America would like maybe this will evolve directly into online voting. That'd be a second step that America could decide on their own. But one thing that we do want to do is having like a universal polling system, so every American can go on this platform. They can answer once and for all, where do you stand on health issues? Where do you stand on climate? Where do you stand on social issues?
Sure.
And like allow America to directly put their feedback in. And you know, so then slowly the system can evolve, that instead of right now it's like politicians have their policies and then we're forced to conform to those, but it should really be vice versa. You should see what do most America want, and then a candidate should represent that. And it, you know, it's like right now it's pretty much in reverse.
Yeah, I agree. It's like it goes back to, you know, no taxation without representation. If I'm not being represented, then I don't allow you to tax me, and you can't force me to pay taxes because you work for me, us, we the people. We don't work for you. We sent you there to do a job, and if you're not going to do that job, we will remove you in short order. That's how it's supposed to be. So I love this idea, man. I love using the technology that the big them, right, have given us against them in some ways, holding them accountable and having some level of accountability over and above what we have had and people have just accepted for years without, you know, you would think that something like this would have come into existence a long, long time ago. So can you talk about what led you to this idea? Like, what did you see going on in your world, or, you know, what was going on in your life to where you were like, you know, we need something like this, and I'm going to start making the moves to set this in motion. So can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, sure. So pretty much like I said in the beginning, like all my life, I kind of felt like I analyze things differently, kind of see things differently. And, a lot of people can relate to that in different ways. But so it took a while before it was actually political. I saw it more of just society as a whole. And like, it just always looked like, things would be a lot easier if it went the way that most people would want. And like, the main, right. And like the main reason the system is so hard is because it doesn't work towards the majority's will. And
it's corrupted in many, many ways. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Sure. So I always saw that like just everything just doesn't make sense and it doesn't feel right. And like that, that breeds like people are always, everyone's defensive more than ever these days, divisive, like everyone's like, because you're constantly being exploited, lied to, manipulated. Just everyone wants your money. Everyone wants to make sure you don't have any kind of power, don't have any kind of say. So I guess originally it was just society at large. I wasn't totally interested in politics because I just saw it as the same old, same old. But then I got a little interested in 2016 between like Trump and Bernie getting involved. And like, I see how like some voters are like, sometimes they see a lot of the right thing, but then they're just misguided and go in the wrong directions. Both sides think that they're saving democracy and that the other side is protecting that their side is protecting democracy, the other side is hurting democracy. Sure. Between like MAGA people, centrists, any side of the aisle. But like, it's really they're choosing which side they hate less and then rationalizing it. And then that goes back to psychology that people, sure, we all rationalize things that like once first you're choosing a car and you're going to look at the pros and cons of every car. Once you buy your car, you start rationalizing, oh, I like this. And oh, that one thing I didn't like before, I kind of like it now. Like, you kind of rationalize a lot. That's just, human nature. So I got more political a little bit around 2016, but I also I didn't like anything that the way the system works right now. There's reform movements that are trying to do the right thing, and then you really zoom in, and then even them, they have like egos that are preventing their success, or just like they've been doing the same thing for decades. So you're not going to be able to tell them, hey, look, obviously it's not working. Let's try a different strategy. They can't accept that. Yeah. Not to knock every movement and stuff. There's so many variations of all this, but so I just saw a lot about the psychology, and that's what I've always been interested in. And my older career was around operations and like process improvement, and I kind of see of government is really supposed to be more of like the operations of society. It's not necessarily like we need a stronger government, like it should just be the operations, just the processes that allow America to run and function, and allow the people to run themselves basically as much as possible.
Yeah, transparency and efficiency is what it seems like is the overarching thing here. And I like I said, I think this is a great idea. I think it's a great tool that people will have. And when you say that it's going to be owned by the people, is it going to be like an open source thing to where people can alter and change things whenever, or do you mean that people can just say we can make suggestions, and then is there like a group or a board of directors or basically whoever funds it and donates that gets to have that kind of a say? How is it going to be operated? How's the the day-to-day of it going to go as it evolves into having new things to offer to people?
Yeah, great question. The nitty gritty is still being fleshed out, but ultimately the end goal is hopefully within 10 years that America will literally own it. Like it'd be where when you turn 18, you can every American can opt into an equal ownership stake of this system, of this platform. Not open source, but almost kind of like the Republic model, where we would like essentially vote for representation who's running the technology side of things. Now, everyone doing the technology, they can't be political. They're just here to build the right system, build democratic algorithms, and just making sure the system itself is equal, like level playing field. And then the politics is the content that the people put in.
Got it.
So like everyone that's gonna have an ownership, they'll be able to vote for who's like the president or whatever the titles would be. They'll be like, anywhere between like 5 to 20 people that would be elected that runs the technology, and like maybe there'll be election every 4 years or 6 years tops. But definitely nothing where money buys influence. That always goes down the wrong pipe.
Absolutely.
So we can't do that. Even this whole thing is all going to be grassroots funded. We're looking for like $5, $10 at a time, but from a lot of different people. So that's the legal system so it's kind of a mix of a DAO, nonprofit. No one's everyone that owns it, they're not gonna be able to like take money out of it. It's more of just decision making and accountability. Sure. So that's the ultimate goal there. And then so like not exactly open source, but it's like it's kind of you basically have representation inside that builds the infrastructure.
Yeah, it's like an admin for a group or whatever. And then you vote on who gets to be an admin, and it's actually democracy about democracy.
Yeah,
what it kind of seems like.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So is the ultimate goal then is once you get everything in place and it seems to be working well and people are participating, is it going to be like a big promotional campaign kind of thing to where you get it into, I mean, obviously that's why part of the reason why you're coming on podcasts, I would imagine, is to get it into the public consciousness, because that's another thing is like, it can be in existence, but if nobody knows about it and they don't know that they have access to it, then word of mouth advertising is always the best in my opinion. But I guess because I'm kind of thinking about it right now from like, I'm on the team. I'm part of I'm like, let's brainstorm where the next step is. And I like the idea of if you're going to donate to it, then part of the donation should go to the promotion. And then once the promotion is out there in the public consciousness, then it's only going to create more funding and more people are going to be involved in participating, and it'll become over time what its intention is. So I like that, man. So how many people are involved aside from you right now? Is there a little board of directors kind of doing it as we speak?
Yeah, like so right now it's about a team of 25 people volunteering their time.
Oh, nice.
But to your point, like right now it's all about awareness. It's really the movement has to come first. We want people involved with like, because again, America's going to build this with us. There's a lot of decisions that we don't, even if there's now 25 of us, we don't want to make decisions by ourselves. We want America to be part of the decision making. So almost all of it right now is an awareness stage, showing people right now it's more of selling the vision and selling the implications of how much good this could do for society. Start getting people involved, even within the next couple of weeks or at latest like a month or two. We're going to have, it's called the Deep Digital Politics app, not the big thing, but, it'll be a starting point of like this, how to understand the problem of the system of power. And there'll be a feedback mechanism to start asking America what they want in this technology, what they want out of politics in the future, what their biggest concerns are, and just different ways that America could get involved now. There'll be a template where they could expose corruption. They could lift up like underdog politicians. So there's a little bit of chicken or the egg right now. We just need to we're calling it our breakout moment, that if we could just get enough people understanding what this could do for America and the change this can have, this should really start going viral. And you hit it right on the nail. It's going to be about word of mouth, and over social media, word of mouth can be a lot faster in today's day. It's all grassroots style. Because also to your point, there's been like 10, 15 organizations. No one's done anything nearly like what we're talking about with this tech, but there's like Ballotpedia. There's different like pieces of this idea that's been used before, but no one's ever succeeded, and no one's ever most America doesn't know they even existed. So that's to your point too. Like America needs to know this is going to exist. So that's kind of our role forever as FiNC, is like, once this technology, we're not even going to be like the big part of the technology. We're more of the referee. We just want to see it being built properly, being fairly made. But then our goal is really going to forever be campaigning, getting politicians to be on board with this new concept, citizens, see what movements would be aligned and willing to advance their framework of how they see things to be more in align with this kind of an idea. So that's like forever. Our goal is just to keep getting more and more Americans. That's the ultimate goal, is just get as many Americans as you possibly can to be part of this. and participated in democracy in a whole new level.
That's so cool. I think what I would some basic ideas I have jumping around my head right now is on my show sometimes I'll do like a flip flop video. Like I'll play a clip of what's the one I'm thinking of? What's her name? Who's the one that they call Pocahontas all the time?
Elizabeth Warren.
So Elizabeth Warren. I played this thing of her one time talking about, I can't remember what it was, but as I was listening, I was like, well, this is hilarious because I knew all of this backstory about the stuff she was talking about, and it was bullshit. And so I did it before and after. So I played the clip of her talking about whatever it was, and then I was like, well, take a look at this, and then it's like literally her completely flip flopping on what she was claiming in that other video. So that's a good way to get to let people know, like, hey, do you see a problem with the status quo of how voting happens in this country? Do you think that there's a problem with the two-party system, and do you wish you had a tool to really get to the point? Well, now you do. Here you go. That's going to sell this idea, I think, really well. So
yeah, I like that idea.
Cool. So so right now 25 give or take people, and then have you spoken to anyone in the like campaign people that work on campaigns, or people that like maybe other big name podcasters or news journalist types out there so far that have shown interest and wanted to participate?
Not bigger guys. We're kind of working our way up on who we could connect with, and still we're still trying to figure out how to get the door open for us in some things. I mean, so we talked to a lot of movements, like different reform movements that supposedly want money out of politics and want ranked choice voting, things like that. A lot of like we do found some good ones that we are starting to align with, but a lot of them, when you dive in, they're not looking to evolve. They're funded and they're pushing something. It might not be succeeding what they're doing, but it's funding their jobs, and they're not gonna want to shake the boat. And a lot of our narrative is that both parties are corrupt. Don't just look at one. And so some of these guys have an issue with that. But there's definitely be plenty of people. It's really just again, like part of that breakout moment that we're talking about is just like somebody out there, like bigger names have to see this. That's why we're showing up on podcasts. Our big thing is really social capital. Like our entire team is all about marketing. Like we have video editors, copywriters, graphic designers. That and outreach is our biggest chunk of the team. And so it's really like trying to explain like what is our mission, how is it unique. We're trying to really like how to say in a nutshell what makes this so different. Because some people say, oh, well, other people have tried to do a tech platform. Like, yeah, but not like citizen owned, not where every candidate is heard and every voice is heard. So we're trying to figure out like what to start with. What is our lead in? We're getting closer and closer, and in the next, like, we're building a lot more traction now. So long story short, it's like we've been talking to different movements, couple different podcasts. In the last month, I've been on like this would be like my fourth or fifth podcast. We talked to a couple, like we talked to a governor candidate, but for Democrat in Texas. But that's a hard one to win. But more of the underdogs so far. So it's not so much getting the like big names, but we're getting insight of like, and we also talk to thousands of citizens, like just regular citizens. That's our key focus. So at least we're learning different perspectives. We're seeing what kind of new challenges we would have, but that's, different from now that it would be more up versus down. You sometimes get surprised who is aligned with the up serving, that when push comes to shove, like,
that's what that's what I was getting ready to say next, as far as, let's say, big picture thinking, it gets successful, people start using it, and it does start affecting moneyed interests. At what point does someone come in and maybe try to shut it down or speak poorly of it? Or I love the idea, but you're right. It's almost got to be a hush hush spreading of the information at first until enough people know about it. Yeah. Because I think you're right. I think it's so easy for even a person that makes the decision to get into politics and has the best intentions and knows what they believe in and wants to make change and just be a person that really truly intends at first to represent their constituents and the people that sent them there and voted for them to be there for whatever reasons. And you know as well as I do that money is very corruptible, and powerful people making you, Godfather offers you can't refuse type of situations um, are going to happen and do happen all the time. So I think the idea is great. It's just I think that if it is successful, that would be my advice would be prepare for pushback
Yeah.
from some of these moneyed interests. Have you thought about that at all?
Oh yeah, yeah. I
Because
mean, yeah, like we're basically like everything we lose, like some of it's more of like everything we lose, like we're not gonna CNN, MSNBC, Fox, they're not gonna promote this anytime soon. So
unless you buy ad space, then they
yeah,
might.
yeah. But then their other advertisers will get mad that we're promoting something that they don't like. So
Could be. That's
it's a,
possible.
but
Yes.
but anyway, so there's several branches of what that would look like. I mean, number one is like our biggest space is always going to be social media, podcasters, social media influencers, independent media. Yes, eventually we'll have like a physical presence. We'll be in like political events and stuff like
Yeah.
that, but mostly digital. I know there's going to be a day where I'll even need a security detail, and like there'll be threats on me, for doing this kind of thing. And so we're all about that, like, because all the statistics show that like we're literally trying to offer what most America would want, and like
Sure.
like the big power people, they're gonna want to talk shit about it, but like how can you, like, you could add, maybe there's conspiracy theories like, oh, they secretly want to do this, they secretly want to do that, but like I'm gonna be curious to how they're gonna try to
They're gonna
make
have to
this.
prove it. Yeah. They're gonna have
Yeah.
to prove that it's not nobody's making money on it, and you're gonna have to and that would be the method I think they would use too, because that's what they do with everybody. It's just like they'll have someone will pay some magazine to write a hit piece on somebody, or
Mhm.
they'll come up with they'll have some investigator dig into somebody's past and see if they can't get make it like, oh hey, don't listen to this person because hey, this is what they did, check this out, they're not to be trusted, blah blah blah. But I mean, obviously that's way down the road, but I like that you're getting this off the ground. The grassroots punk rock, do it yourself vibes. It themes up with my show perfectly, and I love this idea. So I'll definitely help you out with promoting it, and even if you wanted me to put something in the show descriptions for my shows to say, hey, go check these guys out and try to get involved and use this tool and tell others that are interested and that care about the future for the country and about what's really going on in the world to get involved. And I tell people all the time, it's easy to just sit there and bitch and complain about all the problems in the world, but what are you doing? Are you participating in your democracy? If a democracy is gonna function, it requires participation by definition.
Mhm.
And a lot of people would rather just let the algorithm tell them what the world is. And that's the thing. I think this idea is fighting the algorithms, really. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Is
yeah.
getting into those algorithms is going to be um advertising to people like through that is going to be a big. So let's talk about your personal worldview. So what do you think about um maybe not the two-party system, but just what's going on in the world right now? Do you see this Trump administration becoming this techno-fascist oligarchy with all these tech bros that have seemingly infiltrated it? We've been talking about this on my show recently, here and there, and it for a lot of people on the left that's their narrative right now, but even for people that are on the right are centrist, anarchists, libertarians like myself, whatever. Um, I'm starting to kind of agree with some of those ideas. Like it looks like, um, what. So, for example, let me give you an example of what I mean. Kash Patel, Kash Patel went on podcast for what, 2 years, claiming that he's going to expose, the Epstein files, and they're going to, people are going to be held accountable, blah, blah, blah. And then he gets in there and I don't hear him talking about doing anything resembling that anymore. They put Tulsi Gabbard in to be the DNI, and Dave Smith the other day was talking about how people were looking at emails of military people saying, "Hey, we struck this target, blah blah blah." Turns out the part they don't talk about is that the target had innocent women and children in there. And then Tulsi's giving them the thumbs up on the reply. So it's like it's almost a perfect example of before the administration comes into existence, they'll tell the American people whatever they think you need to hear. And then his other thing, Dave Smith's other thing was now RFK Jr. is talking about the real threat to health, anti-Semitism. And he makes this joke like, oh, it was all about vaccines and the efficacy of vaccines and getting terrible ingredients out of our food. And then once you get in there, it's like, oh, anti-Semitism is a big problem. Let's not worry about my platform. This is the new focus. So it does kind of look like this Trump administration is changing focus away from everything that they claimed they were going to do. So what's your idea about that? Let's talk about what's happening now in American politics.
Yeah. So yeah, I agree with you on a lot of that. Like I have to be careful. I'm trying to be like as neutral as possible in the. We call it politically agnostic. So I try not to take too much in the day to day. But yeah, no, I agree with you. I mean, like Democrats try to point to Trump as like the destruction of democracy and all this stuff. But there's
conveniently not even looking at the Biden administration.
Yeah. So yeah, and like
kettle much. But,
and secret, so part of it's like, Democrats, I feel like they in some way love Trump because they actually have like, hey, look, there's somebody worse than us. Vote for us. Look how bad they are. And like, that's been their campaign since 2016 is like, look at them. We're not as bad as them. And then the bar just gets lower and lower. So I always try to preface it by like saying like, I like to emphasize that Trump is a symptom of the problem. It allowed for this to happen. A little over a decade ago, Citizens United happened and just took any cap of money spending in politics off. And you could argue if we've ever had a democracy, but it got worse. And like, they're saying, oh, Trump and his billionaires. Like, okay, but Biden has multimillionaires and like, and there's billionaires there too. And like,
Same
this.
thing. Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. So, yes, what he's doing, it's now in front of people. It's more obvious. Now it's like you can see it in your face. And I just want to remind people that it just wasn't in your face as much before.
Sure.
Now they just don't need to hide it so much. It's just right out there.
Yeah, that's going to be another big thing for pushing your idea for FiNC is educating people about how you may have these preconceived ideas about how the system actually works, but here let us show you why it's not working, or asking people, do you think it's working? What would you could even do your own like polling, like out of we talked to 100 people and we asked them, do you think the system of democracy and voting and all that is working efficiently, adequately, with transparency and free of corruption? And if not, what would you like to, do you think that it would be a good idea for what we're trying to offer to the American people? I think that's going to be a big way to, because a lot of people don't think there is a problem. A lot of people are like, oh, what's wrong with, we live in a two-party system and our American government's perfect. It's like, well, is it? Like, part of it is almost educating people to realize that it's not working. And if people think it is working, like, how are we going to convince them of that? What do you think about that?
Yeah, definitely valid points there. I mean, the polls do show, like, people are pretty upset. I mean, some of them are only upset because of Trump, and like, maybe that's the point, that's a grander scheme, is just that maybe that brings them more awareness. But the when you do look at the polling, I mean, the approval ratings on both sides are abysmal. Congress. So, now, like, even like 5-10 years ago, people were more asleep. Now, like, it's hard to argue, like, are people distracted because they don't care, or are they distracted and not doing anything because they just feel so helpless, they have no idea how to proceed, how to do anything viable. That's why they get distracted. So I'm a little bit more in the more optimistic camp on that. But the two party system, that is the trap. And like, I mean, there's even polling last year's election, like around 63% of Americans want a third party viable option.
Sure.
And like, but the establishment, it's the control of the narrative is the biggest problem. That the mainstream media will never puts third parties on camera, and independents not on camera. They're not allowed in debates. The party leaders, the party leaders are not going to let any Democrat or any Republican have a fair chance. It's only, establishment approved candidates.
Yep.
So the hardest is really helping people realize their own party is so damaged. And a lot of times that's like Democrats I run into. Look, more in the older generations, I have a recent theory that it's just like most of their lives they saw the system mostly working, so they're so engraved to believe in the system, and like, well, it's not perfect, but if we just need more Democrats. The only thing wrong with the system is the Democrats lost by one vote when the policy really mattered. They lost by 1 or 2 votes. Like, no, that was by design. They didn't get the policy you wanted.
Sure.
So I do run into a lot of people that like they're just so distracted but Trump. It's like, okay, but you guys have been saying that since 2016, and here we are now. You can't just say, don't shake up anything. Don't tell people the whole truth because Trump is worse than Democrats. Like, yeah, but like, as much as people are freaking out by Trump, the Democrats' approval ratings are lower than his and the Republicans. So like, no, like they're totally on the ground, and they're not going to be willing to reform because they know what they need to reform. They need to get rid of their big money. They need to do the grassroots style. They need to open up primaries, let other voices in. And they don't want to do that. The old guard wants to stay in power. The Pelosi's, the Schumers, they don't want to lose their big donors. They wouldn't want to change, and so they'd rather, like somebody was just saying it. They want to win an office, but they don't actually want to push like the agenda that they claim to be for the people.
Yeah, you're hitting a couple things that remind me of my conversation with Larry Sharp. So I had Larry Sharp, Libertarian candidate for governor of New York. He's been a Fox contributor. He does The Sharp Way is his podcast, and he told me a couple things when I had him on the show that I think you'll probably find interesting. So the first thing is when he was running, he told me that when he was getting ready to be on like a mainstream media, I can't remember if it was Fox or what channel it was, but he said that as soon as he got on the ticket, which he said was a difficult thing in and of itself, getting a third party even on the ballot was, not easy. Like that part of it's already set up favoring the two party, major parties. But he said when he got to Fox or whatever it was to talk about his platform, he told me it was literally pay to play. Like they were like, oh, you have the money to buy ads? Here you go. Meet our political correspondent. And now this person literally says, okay, now you can talk, we'll give you 5-10 minutes on X because you paid. It's like, and I related this idea to when I used to play in punk rock bands. My old band asked to play the Whiskey A Go-Go on Sunset in Hollywood one time. And the guy said, sure, you just got to sell 50 tickets. I'll give you the pre-sales and it's totally up to you. They gave you the platform to do your thing, but you had to be the capitalist entrepreneur. You had to be the one that was doing everything. Like you didn't get there without being capitalist about it and pay. It's literally pay to play. And when I heard that from Larry, I had already had doubts and not a lot of faith in the mainstream media. But with that, I was like, well, that was the nail in the coffin for me. That is flat out proof, any way you slice it. That is flat out evidence that it's not about disseminating information for the benefit of the American people on the mainstream media news outlets. It is, do you have the money to buy? And if you have the money to buy, now we will let you talk about X, Y, and Z. And even when we let you talk about X, Y, and Z, we might censor that.
Yeah.
We might do what they just did to Tim Dillon on CNN, and they cut half of his interview because it threatens, their bottom line, and it gives a little bit too much of the reality and the truth to people. So, that was the one thing I was going to share with you is how you're absolutely right. The corruption just with the news by itself is a whole thing. But what was the other thing you mentioned that Larry Sharp was telling me? It was something about
primaries, third parties.
Yeah, he was telling me that they don't want to solve problems. That's what it was. He was saying that the two establishment parties don't want to solve problems because if they did solve problems, they can't use it as that Machiavellian wedge issue to play off of, and it's literally becomes it's not about what we're going to do to make things better. It's about how bad that other team is.
Yeah.
And here's why, to your point about how it's like, oh, Trump bad. Let's focus on that's our platform now because, the Biden administration was so terrible or whatever. And another way to look at it, I think, was, I just recently heard this, and I want to hear your thoughts on this. It was, I'm going to forget. I think it was Chris Hedges, who wrote the book. I forget what his book is, but very, very intelligent guy. And he was talking about how Democrats want consistency and normalcy and not a lot of market fluctuation. They want to be able to make trade deals with other countries that benefit them, and they don't like to rock the boat, like you said. They like, for lack of a better word, consistency, right? And then he made the argument that the right seems to be a little bit more, well, let's flip this whole goddamn monopoly board over and try to make certain things more efficient, but they're interested in rocking the boat. They're interested in market fluctuations so that they can come in and privatize more things and pull more things out of the government's realm. So what are your thoughts on all of that? About are these some of the things that I just mentioned kind of what you're going for as far as educating people about how things are actually working in politics?
Yeah. And I agree with everything you're saying there. And like part of what we're doing, I actually we have an infographic we drew on this, but it's kind of like on the front level, they both sides, the Republicans say that look at the government, look how corrupt it is, it's so bad, we need the corporations need to be able to roam free. And then the vice versa is true with Democrats, are saying, oh, look at all these big corporations running amok, these billionaires, we have to regulate them. But then they ignore the fact that the government's corrupt. Unless it's Republicans, they'll say it's corrupt, but never them.
Then, right. Right.
But like, what we really want to show America is that the establishment is on both sides. They're the billionaires and they're in government, and it's the same establishment. And so it's not just about big government versus small government. It's exactly what you said. They like, either way, you're not winning if that's all you're looking at is left versus right, because they're all upserving. And so, whether it's the corrupt government controlling a program or it's private billionaires owning the program, like, that's the problem. If we had like downserving on the right is more of small business, more decentralized, like, because private can be great, but like not just that, like a handful of corporations owning everything. That's not. And so that's part of the big division in this country, is that they're not seeing it as part of the same establishment. Like a traditional Republican talks about the deep state, And like they're mostly just seeing it like the inside government, the secret liberal deep state government. It's like, no, that's part of it, but it's definitely not all of it.
Right.
And then the other thing I want to touch on, the thing you're saying about the media is really calling it like the three main evils is like the party leaders and gatekeeping, the corporations and big donor money, and then the third one is the media, the establishment media. And part of this ecosystem, we want people to see this platform. It's not just technology. It's going to literally be an ecosystem for the people. And so for example, a third party candidate right now can't get on establishment media, but in this new system, they could get on like hundreds of independent media stations. And, so if we start networking people with independent media influencers and just any kind of social media people, and they could be the voice that the establishment refuses to be. So
yeah, that's why I'm here.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. So this ecosystem we're trying to build, because some people, they get too zoomed in that it's just about technology. And it's like, that's the tool. That's like the material of the building we're building is digital, but it's more of a concept. It's the framing. It's how to get America aligned of like, hey, let's put like the exact solution for healthcare. Let's put that aside for a minute. Climate issues, put that on aside for a minute. Let's just fix democracy. We'll agree on a lot of things if we just try to fix democracy. And then once the system is more fixed, then we could debate those issues. And I'm sure it'll be less divisive at that time. Yes, we won't agree on everything, but it'll be smoother to come up with some conclusions at that point.
I love it. It reminds me of a quote by Charles Kettering, one of my favorite quotes. A problem well stated is a problem half solved. I love that quote because it's exactly what you're saying, is that as soon as you get the noise and the bullshit rhetoric that's trying to be divisive or trying to be coercive and what for or against whatever, as soon as you get that out of the way and you just look at the brass tack reality of what has happened and what these people are saying, and then you just match it up. This is what they're saying. This is what the record shows. Does it match? And it's like, it's like the best way to solve the problem is to state it as precisely and as accurately, free of unnecessary wording that's just going to make it more confusing, So I love that, man. That's a great way to look at it. And just honestly, man, talking to you is refreshing to me because we agree on a lot of things just based on this conversation so far that we haven't even really like outwardly addressed. It's just come up naturally, organically in conversation. And it's like, it gives me hope because it shows me that there are more of us out there that do see these same problems, that do see the situation for what it is. And the old explanations just aren't working for educated, connected people anymore that are paying attention and that are smart enough to know when someone's filling them full of shit, So, yeah, man, I really like this idea for FiNC. So, so what's next, man? What's the next steps as far as rolling this out and implementing the plan of attack,
Yeah, so number one is definitely still this awareness stage. We got to get in front of more people. We need to be taken seriously by the average person. We really need to up our social capital.
Sure.
Because the downside of what we're doing, like it's so out of the box and so anti-establishment that the typical players in politics are not going to be looking at us anytime soon.
100%.
Even some that would want us in the long run, they have to have a calculated risk and like that kind of thing. So right now it's all about social capital, getting taken serious, getting in more like bigger and bigger independent media channels, and then just need a couple key players that are like really well trusted in society. Anything from a celebrity to a podcaster to independent media, like it could be a range of things where they give us a voice to talk to a lot more people. So we're climbing now. Like the last month or two is just getting up our followership and stuff like that. But so right now it's just engaging America on social media. Like most of our team, in some form or the other, almost everyone on our team is doing something with America on social media. It's either original content to explain what the problem is, or just directly going back and forth with people. So we're like engaging people on Discord, Instagram, TikTok are like the main three. Starting to get into Substack soon. But then so right now it's just the awareness stage, getting more people involved, getting more people to support us is key. Then we're launching again this digital politics app. It's not gonna be like super high tech. It's more informational and coordinating, just like getting people like this is the vision that we see. This is the problem with the system. You know, there's areas where like, you know, again, like whether you see it as the deep state or this or that, like just don't even worry about that. We could all agree that
Right.
there's something.
Whatever the problem is, who cares? Let's just agree that there is a problem and we
Yeah.
need a different method, a different way.
Yeah. And then so the DP app, once that launches again hopefully within the next month, we'll have more calls to action for the average person. They'll be able to give their feedback to us. They'll be able to share our message in different ways, and we want people to really feel like we're genuinely building this with them. We need their ideas. We need their support. We want to build this with them. We don't want to make all the decisions solo. We want to make it with America. So yeah, so in a nutshell, like what you were saying earlier about promoting us and helping that way, that's huge. That's a real help. Connecting, just getting us in front of more people on social media is the key right now. And then just getting enough allies, like, you know, as we start building it, there'll be focus groups, polling, surveys, things like that we'll send those stuff to you and your followers. And we just want to get as many people's feedback and ideas as possible. And then the more watch
it grow from there. Yeah. I'm definitely going to do that. I was just thinking while you were saying that, I'll put your links in my show description for all my episodes moving forward. And then I'll say, if you're interested in rethinking the way we do democracy, go to, and then I'll have all your links there. And just like with all my sponsors and stuff in the past that I've put in the show descriptions, just so it doesn't matter what episode of my pod that you're listening to, when you're reading through it, that's there and it's going to be in people's faces so that they can click on it and take a look for themselves and learn. Because if you're listening to my show or shows like mine, and we have something like that in the show description, you're already going to know it's going to be something of a like-minded thing that you're going to be interested in checking out. So yes, I'm definitely going to do that. I love it because it's, you know, this is the Politics and Punk Rock podcast, and I'm always preaching, do it yourself. Don't expect big business to take care of you and do things for you. Don't expect the government to take care of you and do things for you. Be in control of your own destiny. Take control of your own life, and you don't need people to tell you to do things. If you know in your heart that they need to be done, just get out there and start the work, start doing it. And so I have a lot of respect for what you guys are doing, man. The country needs it, and I'm definitely going to be an ally on your side. So Travis, anything else you wanted to plug or talk about before we get out of here today, sir?
No, I think that all sounds great. I think we're like totally on the same page on this. I'm really excited. Everything that you're saying in terms of support, it sounds amazing. You know, just anyone listening, it's all about word of mouth, both like literal as well as social media word of mouth. You know, the establishment's not going to help. If anything, a lot of the algorithms like on Instagram and stuff actually lower like more radical
of course
stuff.
Oh yeah.
So we're running against that.
I am shadow banned to the teeth, my friend. You would be surprised. I have, in fact, I've had people write me emails that say, I'm a big fan of your show, but I don't talk about it to anybody because they would, you know, the fear of ostracize, you know, or whatever. It's these radical fringe things. And it's like, it's not really radical and fringe. It's really just thinking. Critically analyzing the situation in the world that we live in. And I think that those people, the amount of those people in society is definitely growing. It's getting closer to a critical mass than it has ever before. I think my generation with 9/11 started waking some people up, and with COVID and what's going on with the whole Trump and Biden thing these last 8 to 12 years, I think people are really starting to see, and on top of that, with the advent of the technology, certain things they're not capable of keeping them a secret anymore. Certain things are going to be discovered, and people are going to be made aware of the realities of things. And I think just that breadcrumbing over time is going to turn more people on to ideas like FiNC and to ideas like, hey, there's got to be a different way, a better way. let's not just let the old hat authorities tell us what it is and how it's going to be. No, we're going to start doing our own thing and doing it ourselves and spreading the word. So, Travis, I love this, man. Come back on the show in the future if you would, and give us a status update. I'm going to be involved promoting these links and your ideas and stuff, and we'll see how it grows, man. So
Cool. Yeah.
all right, people, that's the show. I got to get out of here. Travis, thanks for being here today. That's it. Go to the website, politicsandpunkrockpodcast.com, www.futureis.org, correct?
Yep.
Here we go. And then I got that up on the ticker there, guys, if you want to go check out the website. And then if you want to follow FiNC on Instagram, TikTok, and Blue Sky, go to @futureis.org. Right there, capital FIO in the link. You see it on the ticker there. That's the show, everybody. Thanks so much. I love you guys. We'll see ya next time.